Assalamu alaikum, this is your host Salim bin Muhammad Rafi, and here is my YouTube channel Zamir Universal. Today I am going to talk about the stubborn mule, mentally deranged, a maniac, a warmonger, a war criminal, and a genocide expert, a killer of the peace for the last 20 years, a womanizer, a person who is unfit to be even called a human being, who is a baby killer, who killed women and children, and he killed patients, he killed surgeons, he killed the people who were providing the world food, people who cooked and from 7 different countries, and you name it's Adolf Hitler number 2. That's Bibi Netanyahu, one of the most corrupt person on earth. Must have a devil, a wolf wearing a sheep skin and dodging the whole population of Israel, where 30% of the people are Orthodox Jews, and half of the population, you will see that because of his being adamant and being, when you are dealing go to a mental hospital and you start arguing with a mental patient who is behind the bars, because he can attack you. This is exactly what this Netanyahu is doing. Half of his war cabinet, he doesn't talk to them. And you can hear the ex-chief of the army say that the war council should be just completely dissolved. And there's the lies of babies and that. In my previous vlog, you heard the chap saying that none of them has been proven. And you can see this guy picks up the phone and call that another mentally deranged, a person who is suffering from Alzheimer or dementia, and he falls 3 times before he can in the plane, is a puppet sitting in the White House. Now, with everybody telling this thing, and you can see the dual face of the Europeans and that woman in the European Union, and this guy who is nobody, and he is trying to convince and follow this thing. He is a puppy dog of this, the Jewish, the Zionist state. And he spits on his face. His foreign secretary, unelected, David Cameron, went there and he just ignored him, just like nobody. He said, we'll do whatever we think is right for you, you go to hell. And see what is happening in their House of Commons, where the assembly people asked him, why did you go there to get insulted when the guy is not listening to you? Why did you send your, the Air Force over there to intercept their drones and things? When the guy is so ungrateful, he doesn't even care. Instead, he insults you. And this is exactly what he did with the United States of America. That damn you, you come, bring your plane. Whether you lose in your election, I won't give me damn. Give me the money. And you see that their own people having 40% on the food stamps, and you can see their infrastructure completely going to the ruins. Their own ammunition is out. You can see that they have already lost in Ukraine, and now you can see that after Iraq and Iran and Libya and Syria, Afghanistan, Vietnam, this guy, I think he is shameless. He's been insulted, humiliated and thrown out, and now he is going to join him again and go and fight with Iran. He doesn't know this time that history is going to repeat, that the last time when, Ziaul Haq sent our Air Force pilots and they flew from Jordan and they praised the hell out of Israeli pilots, and with a dogfight they just, now without Air Force they go and they bomb and they flatten the Gaza airstrip. And now you'll see, for the first time you will see that these retired pilots who will join and fly the latest Russian jets, and they will just flatten now every city of the old Israel, which the names they change, will be just completely flattened, and the rest of the 50% peasants, many of them who are in jail as deserters, who doesn't want to serve in this army, and they spit on his shoulder. And you look at the people, look at the exit, the greatest exit of the Jews left in the whole of the northern border, and you see the crippled, and you see the amputees lying in the hospital. This guy is a liar, a cheater, because there are thousands and thousands, more than 100,000 Israeli soldiers are crippled and they are empties and they are lying in the hospital. Since they are not his sons and daughters, he doesn't give a damn. With all that protest, people out on the Jewish people out to wanting to have this man resign and get out. He is just insisting, and he is shameless. He is staying with all that insult. And he refuses to also die. He refuses to quit. He refuses to go. Now you can see that he is putting the whole world on fire, and the start of the World War III. I just show you glimpses of two dog fights and see the expertise of the Pakistani pilots, and you can see what they are going to do with that. The president of Iran coming to Pakistan, you know that why is he coming to Pakistan. There are two things he wants. One, the Gauri missile, which can hit and destroy the whole of Israel. And the other is there are these retired pilots who will be flying the aeroplanes, and you can see when they fly the aeroplanes, nothing the bloody hell can America do, nothing any damn person can do for that, and they will fly it. And now see that real fight or dog fight between the Israeli jet pilots. Now, if you are men enough and you are not eunuchs, now you are not transgender, then come and fight. You just are used to killing the people who are without any arms, without 2 years old baby, you shoot them in the head. Person who is with a cast wearing because he's got a fractured leg, you shoot him. You shoot nurses, you shoot the kitchen people who prepare food, you kitchen the innocent civilians. Show one dead body of a person in the Hamas you have killed. None. Any of their leaders, none. So that's your achievement in the last 6 months, you bloody coward. And now you are going to face, and I'm just going to show you the dog fight of 1 and 2. And this is just a small glimpse of a very, fourth, fifth generation of jets. We have now the latest jets now, and see with that, they are also God's health, and nothing can detect them. And you will see how they'll jam you and how they'll kill you. And now you get ready for your graveyard in the whole of Israel, and then you will leave this, humiliated and out from this country where the God promised to have you homeless and be just walking around and scattered you all around the world. Once again, the history is.
Now, what did the Jews do? When you ask what have the Germans done to the Jews, you must always ask what have done the Jews to the Germans. Since 1850, when the Jews got all the political rights in Germany, in the German Reich, they have done 3 things which are really dramatic. Number 1, they were a small minority of 2% of the population. At the time when Hitler came to power, 500,000 within 60 million German people. 500,000 among 60 million. They were a small minority. This small minority managed to control about 50% of the media, to give about 70% of all judges, to have a tremendous influence in movie and in theater and in literature. They were overrepresented. This is one thing. They were absolutely overrepresented, as today in England, in France, and in the United States. Second, Jews were at the origin of a lot of catastrophic financial bank crashes in Germany between 1870 and 1920. In that time, they made a lot of crashes which have, this is all documented. I mean, it's not Nazi propaganda or anti-Semitic or Arab propaganda. It's a lot of books have been published, even by Jewish Germans, about this problem. They have millions of German fathers have lost their incomes, their fortune, their savings because of these Jewish gangsters, bank gangsters and speculations people. Then the third point, which was psychologically the most dangerous of all, they have introduced into German art and culture and theater and movie decadence, immorality. The first homosexual theaters, plays, were made in Berlin in the 1920s. The first adultery theater plays were made in the 1880s and 1890s, 100 years ago, by Jewish authors. Adultery, then sexual perversions of all sorts, sadism, masochism, a lot of homosexuality, all these things, and then decadent art, you know, an art which is absolutely ridiculous, so-called modern art. It was all pushed by Jewish intellectuals, and this created among the German people a big revolt. And they wrote books ridiculing Christianity, ridiculing Jesus. I mean, it was something like Salman Rushdie with the Muslims, and they were furious.
And then you've got the Israeli army, which I like to refer to as one of the best trained, best equipped, best fed terrorist organizations in the world. And yes, they have generals and they have nice uniforms, but their entire purpose is terrorism. And just as one example, I'll give you one example. Almost exactly 4 years ago, as Israel began its attack on Gaza, September the 27th, 2008, at 11:25 in the morning, what I refer to as the most shameful day in the Jewish history, the most shameful day in the history of the Jewish people. Israel began carpet bombing Gaza, and on the first day of what was to be a 21-day attack, they dropped 100 tons of bombs. Okay, a 1-ton bomb will decimate an entire city block. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. 800,000 children live in Gaza. 11:25 is exactly the time when the morning school shift and the afternoon school shift change. So all the kids are in the streets. All the children are on the streets. That was the moment decided by the decision makers in Israel to begin the attack.
If you could address them, what would be your message to the Israeli people?
You know, in the Muslim and the Arab world, we sort of have been taking it as a truism, you know, for years, that the United States basically serves Israel, that America is controlled by Zionists, and that the U.S. government will do anything, no matter how much it costs, to save and protect Israel. I think there's a lot of Israelis who probably think that way too. But an objective, rational assessment of the situation would paint a very different picture. I think Israelis need to recognize, if they don't already.
Dear citizens of America, here's some stuff that you really need to know. First of all, Jews make up less than 2% of the population of your country, but they hold every senior level cabinet position in the Biden administration except Secretary of Defense. I mean, just look at this list. And you have to ask yourself, are these people after your best interests? Are they going to do what's best for America, or are they going to do what's best for Israel? You see, the whole world knows the reality that Israel treats America like a farm. They treat you guys like cattle, like farm animals. Every single hardworking American works every day and pays their taxes. Those taxes are supposed to go to improving America and making the country better for you and your children. But instead, that money is sent overseas to Israel. America gives more aid to Israel than any other country. In 1999, the US government signed an MOU saying that they were going to pay a minimum of $2.67 billion annually for Israel for the next 10 years. That number was increased in 2009 and increased again in 2019, and now as a minimum, Israel gets $3.8 billion from the US every single year. That's $3.8 billion a year of your money, your tax money, that should be providing you with health care, should be providing you with a college education, but is not doing any of those things. Now, in addition to financial and military aid, the US also provides a lot of political support to Israel, as we've all seen. It used its veto power 42 times against resolutions condemning Israel. Now, the veto power was used a total of 83 times. 42 of those were used to protect Israel. That's more than half. So if I was an American, I would be asking myself, why am I living on this farm? Why am I allowing myself to work and sweat for my entire lifetime, as well as everyone I know and love, as well as all my children, just to send all of this money and support away to Israel?
That the United States is not your savior. It's your worst enemy. The U.S., whether you know it or not, and whether Muslims understand it or not, is actually treating Israel the same way that they treat everyone else, with complete contempt. I mean, look, they are supporting Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the most unpopular, the most despised, the most corrupt, the most incompetent, the most psychopathic, delusional and despotic ruler that Israel has ever had. And he's responsible for both prolonging and worsening the conflict with the Palestinians. Netanyahu has made a career on diverting attention away from the internal domestic concerns that actually matter to Israeli citizens, that matter the most to Israeli citizens, by endlessly talking about security and the supposed threat that Israel faces. And of course, the domestic problems in Israel just get worse. And the conflict and the security situation actually just gets worse. And America loves it. They don't care about Israel's domestic issues. They don't care about the socioeconomic issues, the socioeconomic concerns that Israelis have, the high cost of living, the disparity between rich and poor. They don't care about corruption in Israeli society, and so on.
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर